the contribution is very, very important, whereas others will be still looking at, at the numbers. This is the numbers, that's the situation, that's what we can expect. So, the contribution in terms of, contribution to development, economic development, that it plays a part definitely plays the part for some investors. And as those who are in this very small percentage of the projects that actually get to the application and then get the money deployed after the DD, the lender will be looking mostly at the numbers, but if it comes with this benefit of contributing, and that's kind of, maybe it might seem like it's the secondary, but the truth is that if they deploy money into a project that is not going to contribute, then that is not going to be the return. It's a little bit like what we talked earlier on with project owners trying to push the idea and develop something that the market does not want. So in a sense, that view from the numbers point of view makes it safe, because there's a strict criteria that they look at that needs, those boxes ticked, and that ensures that this project is actually going to succeed. Whereas if you go and, if you got the money for the project that, that does not tick all those boxes, that could create problems, because likely that is just not going to be possible to deliver it. And oftentimes, the project owners overlook this aspect, not just, that do we have the collateral, but overlook this aspect. And like you said, with these startups, that they think, oh yeah, that's what we're going to do. And, rather than, what is needed, where's the gap, what can we fill in, where can we deliver? So this is kind of, when you look, you will often hear that capital is greedy and capital is brutal, and this might be just, again, the perception, but the truth is that they look at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie in a sense.
It's truth. Mm-hmm. So do you think the green movement, I call them the Green Brigade, do you think it's now devolving into becoming, do you think the green movement have now been overrun by bullies and scammers? Because I find a lot of projects that have a lot of value, but you have these cities like, say, Amsterdam or even London, just going through the permitting process, the bureaucracy alone to get through all of the green, look, I love sustainability, okay? But at the end of the day, there is a point where we have to go, wait a minute, a salamander lives there, doesn't mean we're going to render, this whole area unusable. So do you think the green movement have become a hindrance to progress, especially in the Western world? Or do you think, despite the value they add, they don't pose any risks at all?
I think that's a difficult question. I mean, with you will find, you may come across bullies and the likes, anywhere, literally in any area. It's not kind of like confined to the one area. But for the green projects, I mean, personally, I think it's important, because we need to have the collective responsibility for the planet. Because it directly contributes to our daily lives, of everyone on the planet. And if we can make it sustainable, and if we can make it green, that's great. Like, for example, I hear, I don't have a car, so, I'm not commenting on that, but there's a lot of discussions. I hear a lot of discussions about, the electric cars being just, the batteries that we drive. And don't get me wrong, my uncle has a Tesla, and I absolutely love it. The ride is superb. It's just like, it's fantastic. But
I had one, past tense.
There you go. There you go. But I've heard just, some of the discussions were just like, these things are just, these cars are just the batteries. How are we going to utilize these batteries at some point? Yeah. So, is it actually contributing to the progress and a step forward? Is it actually creating another problem in the future, right? Because they will need to be utilized like anything else. Like for me personally, it's just when I look at some of the household appliances that we have, like a washing machine these days, the washing machine is designed to operate and run for some 5 years, maybe shorter, depending on how often you use it. But that's how they are designed most of the time. So personally, I don't like it because if something is good and can be used again and again, and if you have it in a good condition, that I don't want to have to necessarily go and buy another one just because it's just, hey, that's the end of my life. Yeah, you got to go and buy a new one because I'm aware that, okay, that's this one, and it needs to be utilized. So it needs to be recycled. So there's just like, we tend to create solutions with potentially with the problems sitting kind of at the back of this solution. We don't see at the moment. Everybody's like, yay, wow, fantastic. And then a few years later it's just like, oh, okay, that's another problem, we got to resolve this one. So it kind of, my personal preference, but then again, I like the simple life. It would be just to make things as simple as possible because, simple scales. If I have to just get a new washing machine every few years, down, that what happens with the old ones, right? What is my footprint, carbon footprint, and how much waste am I leaving behind? Do you know what I mean? And it's just, yeah. So.
Yeah, I always say you can never scale what you can't simplify. That's a simple fact. Many projects I've been involved with, the successful ones didn't have that problem. The ones that were not successful have that problem. Again, if you can't simplify it, you will never scale it. And if you can't scale it, you will never find your product market fit, period.
Yeah.
My experience with Tesla, one, the batteries, they are not biodegradable. Two, to make those vehicles, you have to burn through 4 or 5 times the fossil resources to make those things. Third, when you drive an electric car, you always have this anxiety because you're always looking at your battery life. You're always looking at it because at the back of your mind, it's like, okay, I don't want to run out of battery. It tells you 300 miles, but when you charge it, it's never what they tell you. So if you add those 3 things, right? 1, it's not biodegradable. 2, it actually costs more fossil material to manufacture. And 3, when I drive, I've got anxiety. Why would I want to put myself through that? It's that simple. So the other point I was going to bring up is, do you think the Western world, there are first world problems and real world problems where we build vanity solutions to problems. And then we take a big microphone, right? We build the solution first, and then we'll take a microphone and scream about a problem that never really existed in order to create a market for the solution we just built. And I use electric vehicles as an example.
I think, again, it's probably the human nature, because when you look at history, that's been a kind of, part of the cycle. With the Industrial Revolution, that's the progress there, because as human beings, we have the ability to develop and grow and build and create things. And that's always been like that. And just, the machine was invented, and there you go. All of a sudden, people became not necessary, right? So, I think we are currently in the in the middle of another revolution, and some people don't realize it, with the IE being so omnipresent, where you can just basically, do things that the creative process, say for writing a blog, used to take. You have to process it, think about it. You have to, and then you just chat GDP, boom, and it's there. I think
do you think the Western world, via quote unquote creativity, right, is using technology to lower the cognitive load, thereby the net result we don't see is that as a species, starting with the Western world, we start to lose our higher cognitive abilities because we rely on machine. Take GPS, for example. I realized very recently, if I didn't have my phone on me, I felt like I was missing a kidney. Okay? When I was a kid, I could read a map, but now without the GPS, I don't know how to get to the next town. And bit by bit, now with AI and Chat GPT and all of that, we're further lowering our cognitive abilities because we rely on these machines. And those are first world problems.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, these things, but I think it's very closely linked generally to the lifestyle. Like, with the invention of light, all of a sudden your day became as you like it, right?
Yeah.
But so in so doing, we disconnected as humans. We disconnected from our biological clock, and so I think it's really, for me personally, it's really important. Just and I'm doing this on a daily basis for a number of years now, just to come back to the origin of me being a biological organism. So I know that if I have a project and I'm in the flow, and I've got the light, I've got my, laptop, I've got my bits and pieces, and I can sit up to, 4:00 in the morning. It's perfectly fine. Then I'm going to sleep longer. But what happens, what most of people don't know is that what happens that, from this window, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., if you have the exposure to artificial light, to the computer light, to the blue light, to electricity, your body is actually taking the beating. So the first thing that I do, and that's just, I just follow the neuroscience and the latest developments, because I've been retraining my brain for a few years now. And this is a fascinating thing, because it brings us back to, that's the flesh, how to look up after the flesh, right? It's not like I have the ability to sit and watch Netflix for the whole night. I can do that, yeah. But I know that the next day, if I'm exposed to the artificial light, then that my cognitive ability, my focus is going to be different. It's going to be lower. And then on top of that, if I wake up, say, I get my 8 hours sleep, I wake up, say, 10 a.m. Or 11 a.m. And the first thing I do is just to have my coffee. That, what I'm doing actually is just, I'm actually lowering it even more without, such a simple things. But, I will have a little bit of a kick for an hour and a half, but, that an hour and a half later, all the receptors are going to be like, no. And I'm going to be feeling down. And I think people just kind of ignore these things. And this, I suppose that's the price of the progress of, all the developments of the technology advancement, everything that we've got around us. It makes us detached from, how we were biologically designed to operate and function on a daily basis. And I must say that for me, I prefer, the work till late at night, and it's okay for me to get up later. But at the same time, I am fully aware that if I got up, say, 7 a.m., where, you've got the daylight, then my day is going to be different. Yes. And so the first thing that I do, to make sure that I have a good day on a purely biological level, not just mentally and emotionally, but just, so after my meditations, first thing, my meditations, which is like 20 minutes. And then you just get dressed and you go for a walk, because, that's the first thing that we should do, everybody, just to go outside, expose yourself to the daylight as soon as possible. Don't wait for, 3, 4, 5 hours, because that's going to be too late, and you won't be able to sort of, mitigate those late night sessions where you are actually exposed within this window from 11 to 6 a.m., to the artificial light. So, it's just, I think it's the human nature. It's been like this, with any progress, any development that it brought. But it's like, Ken Wilber, the philosopher, says, if you draw a line like this, what do you have? Do you have just this side, or do you have like two sides, what you have in here and what you have in here? It's like with the magnet, you've got plus and you've got the minus, one doesn't exist without the other. So we need to be aware that it's similar with the electric cars being, that is such such an advancement. And, for someone like me, who's not a skilled driver, but that's not the reason why I don't drive, is, that car would be perfect because, everything is just done for me, right? But at the same time, I think, and many drivers who used to drive the manual cars, they say that, if you get into an automatic, that is going to be like, you kind of like you said, you're missing the kidney, or you're just like, what do I do now? So yeah, I think like with everything, it's just you've got the plus and the minus. So it's a matter of, trying to sort of come to the neutral.
That's interesting, because do you then think we are evolving? Because we went from Homo erectus, right?
Yeah.
Homo sapiens, cognition, society, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And now with technology and machines, we're slowly merging with it, which what I call Homo Deus,
mm-hmm.
where with technology, artificial intelligence, now, people are getting implants, trackers, machine, nanotech, the slow merger between Homo sapiens and technology now evolving into Homo Deus, almost quote unquote godlike. And do you think that's a potentially dangerous, because given our history, right, humans, we are just a naturally destructive species. Right? If we're not destroying other things, we're destroying ourselves.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, part of it is we give up our privacy. Part of it is we give up our personal data for access. So I think the overarching question is, do you believe privacy and self-sovereignty are fundamental human rights?
Absolutely. But do we still have it? I think that's the question, which is kind of valid, because you're going to have, you are going to go for a walk with a friend. Like, I had the situation that my brother-in-law came back from his run, and he runs with a friend, and they were talking about a product. The minute they took their mobiles out and just checked the mobiles, the first thing they saw the advertisements of the very product.
Of course.
Right? So the question is, do we really have it? I mean, last year when I was in Albania, it just happened to meet a very young. He was a programmer from France. We had a little chat, and I asked him this question. He said, "Well, we work for the startup. They're doing the really fantastic things. But if we with other programmers, if we sat down and decided to do something that we wanted to do, without telling the boss, we could just quite easily do that, and he wouldn't know." And I remember. So we had a conversation. I said, so you hear that when we are being watched by our mobiles or by the laptops or the appliances that we really, even when they are switched off. And is that true? And he went like, so here we go. So there's been this conflict between Apple, because on Apple devices you can now just have your privacy settings that you're not going to have the ads, and so there was a big thing some time ago. So personally, the way I look at that is just how reasonable am I about this? If I go to the sites which could create some risk of stealing my data, then again, really, what certainty do I have that this data is not there? It is there in a number of databases. Every time you buy something, every time you give your data, just like yesterday. Because I no longer have a mobile service provider, like you get the actual SIM card and, from your mobile service provider. For a few years now, I am truly online. So I only have the SIM for data, and I also have the application for the number that I used to have years and years ago. So it's still the same UK number that I have. But I have two apps that basically run on my mobile. And, just to renew one of those applications, yesterday, they do like a check from time to time. So I had to upload my passport and then, they take the shot on the face so that they can confirm I am who I am. What happens to this data? If I don't do this, I lose my mobile, right? So, there are situations like this. And I'm sure they are, data protected, et cetera, because they operate globally. So, and it's a really, really good product. I'm very happy because, every country I went to, I had the data for my mobile, no problems whatsoever. So, but this is the thing that, we do these things. We are not even, sometimes without even thinking, because, okay, that's the annual check. Okay, I got to do this. You go and you do this, right? And then maybe you might be thinking, oh, okay, but where did it actually go? So in terms of progressing those things, it's just like it's hardly avoidable within the world that actually surrounds us.
So are we really free then if everything we do is predicated on our data being compliant with the institutions of state or private entities? Are we really free if that data is consistent with what they believe it should be?
That is a huge question, but I would say freedom can also be personal. It could be something else for a different people. For different people, it is a different thing. For me, for example, freedom is just the ability to travel anywhere, anytime, and just to stay and just be in different locations and embrace different cultures. Yeah, for someone else, it might be having a home in my home time when I was born, and I want to be here. That's my environment. So, it depends on how we define freedom, but within what actually surrounds us, I think, are we really free? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know, because, if I'm sitting here and my mobile is listening to our conversation and it could be maybe that the data could be collected somewhere. If that's true, that, I don't know, honestly.
So what advice would you give your teenage self?
If I were a teenager now,
Then
I've never thought about this, because you see, I cannot change the past, right? So it's Well, no, I cannot change that. So, I'm really here right now, right here at this very moment. I'm here in the present and I'm fully engaged in the present. What I have ahead of me is tomorrow and maybe the day after that and so on and so on. But looking back, I think, that the bigger thing comes into this when people ask this question. For me personally, I don't think it's a valid question because number one, you cannot really change anything. You can only learn from your mistakes, but that's, where you are. I think the focus is on now and tomorrow and
Going forward.
what I can get tomorrow, what I want now. Yeah. So, and if we look at the past mistakes or failures, and we just, start beating ourselves. Oh, that I shouldn't have done this. Oh, that was wrong. Oh, I did it. It doesn't make sense because, I would be doing myself a disservice. And don't get me wrong, that I had this mentality for years, because I simply didn't know. And you just kind of, dwell on the past. And, or sometimes, there are people who will be just like, oh, I should have said this. I should have said that about a situation that happened like maybe 5 minutes ago, maybe 3 days ago. But in this way, what you're doing, you just let it affect you. And, so I think, okay, let's learn from this. And, okay, that's not good. That's good. What was the purpose? What was the reason for this to happen to me? So that, I can be where I am now and where I want to get tomorrow or, 10 years from now.
So I think what you're saying then is you can do it looking forward. The past, you're never going to get back. Today is what you have. Tomorrow, you can only plan for.